Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, and I'm taking care of business. Joining me today is Corinne Pohlmann, who is Senior Vice President, National Affairs for the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Thanks for joining us today, Corinne.
Thanks for having me.
Well, and some interesting data put out by CFIB today on sort of mental health issues. 50% of respondents to a survey, small business owners, are finding it difficult to cope with some of these continuing mental health challenges. Is the number getting to be a little scary, I guess, in terms of how prevalent this is?
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, the pandemic has had, I think, an impact on all of us in terms of our mental health. But if you layer on top of that, a business that you're running that has to have gone through some pretty major economic challenges on top of that, your stress levels really start to go up. So it's not surprising that, half reporting difficulty coping with mental health challenges. In fact, 2/3 are telling us that they're close to burning out, right? So it's something that continues to be a real issue. In another separate survey we did recently, only 1 in 5 are telling us that they're past their pandemic stress. Like 80% are saying they're still feeling some kind of stress related to the pandemic.
Can you, in many ways it's self-explanatory, but can you go through the top things that are causing, all this stress and anxiety and angst for small business owners right now?
Well, it's any number of things, right? It's, throughout the pandemic, it's probably changed from, am I going to get sick? How do I manage that? What do I do if my employees get sick? How do I deal with my customers? How am I going to make the next payroll? Where do my customers going to come from? How do I get them into my store? And certainly as restrictions come and go, depending on the sector you're in, that can have a huge impact. You never knew from day to day whether you're going to be able to stay open or only partly open.
Yeah.
So those are all factors that have, I think, gotten into it today. Those things are probably continuing to be there because things like debt are quite high among many small business owners. The average small business owner is carrying about $160,000 in pandemic debt. So I think there's a number that are worried about how they're going to pay that off. Yeah. And there's still lots of concerns about employees and customers and making sure that they're safe in the environment, given that we certainly are still dealing with COVID and out in the environment today.
And we talked about employees, and employees also have the mental health issues as well. And from a owner's perspective, and especially, I guess, in in the hospitality industry, which has kind of been decimated over the past 2 years, and there's been ups and downs with openings and closings, et cetera. A lot of staff have moved on, and staff that have been there, worry about, when's the next lockdown coming, that type of thing. What are owners, how should they be dealing with their staff in light of all that?
Well, it's definitely another thing that you have to keep in mind as an owner. You want to make sure, especially small business owners, they kind of know their staff really well, right? And so many of them treat them like family. And so they certainly worry about that when they see employees struggling with mental health issues. It could be related to COVID, it could be related to the job, it could be related to the home environment. You just don't always know. But certainly over half of our members tell us that they're aware of mental health challenges that are affecting their employees. And interestingly enough, they're looking for resources to help them understand what to do to assist those particular employees. More than 1/3 sort of went and sought information on what they can do to help. Actually, more likely to find information to help their employees than to help themselves, which tells you something as well about where they want to sort of focus their efforts. So yeah, it's definitely in there. But I will say that because smaller companies tend to be much more family oriented, tend to really know who their employees are, that sometimes having those discussions may be a little bit easier than in a large environment because you notice it more. And just knowing that you can maybe find some tools or get some tools to help you have that conversation would be important. And sometimes that's not that easy to find.
Okay. So what can entrepreneurs, small business owners do in light of all the mental health challenges that are out there right now?
Yeah. So we're certainly suggesting that they think about having an open dialogue in their workplace, just to talk generally about mental health and how it's something that people need to talk about, so that you're not putting anybody on the spot, but you're making it sort of an environment where people maybe can feel more comfortable to talk about what's going on in their lives, making sure people are getting to know each other a bit more. Thinking about other initiatives and supports. There are some tools out there. The Canadian Mental Health Association, for example, certainly has some tools that can potentially help a little bit. Setting good examples yourself as a business owner
Yeah.
of work-life balance and making sure that you're taking care of yourself, so the employees see that you're doing that. They're just some of the ways I think, small employers can think about how they might help build a workplace environment that's more conducive to managing through some of those more difficult times.
Now, not to downplay what's happened in the last 2 years, but I think many businesses have obviously closed, but I think it's been surprising how many have stuck around. In light of all the challenges that they've faced. Are you surprised that a lot of owners, considering some of the mental health and all the stress, have decided, you know what? I'm staying, like, and working it out, I guess.
Well, it just sort of reinforces the resilience, I think, of many small business owners. It's not for the faint-hearted to go into business for yourself, right? So, and I think the one thing I've learned about entrepreneurs over the years is they're some of the most optimistic people you're ever going to meet, right? So they tend to be people who are willing to take the risk because they see positive outcomes for themselves. And so I think that sort of mentality continues to exist for many of them. And for many, it's a passion. It's what they want to do with their lives, right? So you're going to try and hold on as long as you can and hopefully find a way to get through to the other side. And we're hopeful, of course, that most, if not all, are going to be able to do that. But certainly the next challenge is going to be trying to figure out how to manage the debt that so many of them are carrying. And we're going to do what we can to try to help them through that as well.
All right, super. Thanks, Corinne, for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, that was Corinne Pohlmann, Senior Vice President, National Affairs with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, taking care of business. Thanks for joining us today.